Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com.
Hi, this is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, filling in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This is episode 928, recorded Sunday, November 18th, 2012. Enjoy!
The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Stamps.com. Use Stamps.com to buy and print real U.S. postage the instant you need it right from your desk. For our special offer, go to Stamps.com now. Click on the microphone and enter Tech Guy. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile from Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, visit ShareFile.com and click the radio microphone. Enter Tech Guy.
Three, two, one, you're on.
Well, hello there, and a happy Sunday to you. It's Scott Wilkinson here, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo's on an Australian cruise as we speak. He's been snorkeling around the Great Barrier Reef and out in the Coral Sea watching the total solar eclipse. Wow, I can't wait to see a total solar eclipse myself. But in the meantime, I get to hang out with you guys, all of you wonderful tech folks. And whereas Leo always talks about anything with a chip in it, as he says, cell phones, cameras, camcorders, computers, MP3 players, if those even exist anymore. My specialty is home theater. And so I get to spend the next 3 hours talking about home theater with all of you. And I'm very happy to do that. Not only home theater, I want to say, but also movies that you can go see in the commercial cinema, because ultimately they're going to end up in the home theater anyway, aren't they? And one of the biggest, most anticipated movies coming out next month, December 14th, as a matter of fact, is The Hobbit. Now, I'm sure you all heard that The Hobbit is coming out, and it's going to be, you know, Peter Jackson's next giant title, giant movie that will get huge buzz and lots of people going to see it. It'll probably make hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's unique and interesting, even more so, in a couple of ways. Probably the most important one is that Peter Jackson shot it on digital cameras at what's called high frame rate, or HFR. What does this mean? Well, movies for the last 100 years have been shot at 24 frames per second. You have these individual still frames. You've got 24 of them per second as the film moves through the camera. We've since gone to digital, of course. Some people still like to shoot on film, but a lot of people are shooting on digital now. And yet they've stuck with 24 frames per second because it's what we've done for the last 100 years. And it has a certain number of problems, one of which, the primary of which, is as things move around on the screen, as the camera pans or things are in motion, they get blurry. If you watch next time you watch a movie, any movie, take a look and you'll see that as things move, they are very blurry. And then when they are still in the shot, they're very sharp. And it's most noticeable on things with lots of detail, Baroque fabrics, brocades, that sort of thing, in ornately carved furniture. And so this blurriness, people have come to accept and even like, because they say it's film-like. Well, finally, now that we're in the 21st century, we have come to the point where some people, such as Peter Jackson and James Cameron among them, have decided that we can do better. And I think we can. And Peter Jackson's the first out of the gate with The Hobbit, shooting it at 48 frames per second, exactly twice the normal frame rate that movies have been shot for the last 100 years. Now, I've seen some test footage of 48 frames per second and even 60 frames per second. And I have to tell you, I think it looks fabulous. I mean, the detail in things that are moving is very sharp, really crisp, clear as a bell, beautiful, just beautiful. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that it starts looking less like film and more like video, because video is shot at a higher frame rate, typically 30 frames per second or more likely 60 frames per second. But some people object to this. They say, wait a second, this looks like it was shot on video. It looks like a soap opera. We call it the soap opera effect, which happens very often in LCD TVs with what's called frame interpolation. But in that case, the TV is making up new frames to fill in the gaps between the 24 or 30 that are actually there. Whereas here, we're going to see 48 actual shot frames per second. So I think while it will look cleaner and crisper than regular film at 24, it won't quite have the same plasticky look that frame interpolation produces in LCD TVs. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. Now, if you're interested in seeing what this really is, HFR versions of The Hobbit are going to be played in 450 theaters around the country. Are you near one of them? You can find out by going to 48fpsmovies.com. That's 48 FPS for frames per second, movies.com. And on that website, which is dedicated, obviously, to 48 frames per second movies, you're going to see a list. You're going to be able to find a list of the theaters that are showing The Hobbit at 48 frames per second. Now, in addition to being 48 frames per second, it's also going to be in 3D. And I know that some of you don't like 3D, and that's fine. If you don't like it, if it makes you uncomfortable, don't go see The Hobbit in 3D. However, if you do go see The Hobbit in 2D, you're not going to see 48 frames per second, because as far as I've been able to learn, 48 frames per second is only going to be presented in 3D. Why? Because Peter Jackson shot the movie in 3D, and that's what he intends you to see it in. That's the director's intent, which we talk about so often when we're talking about movies and reproduction of movies in the home or in the cinema. That's what THX is dedicated to, is reproducing the director's or the content creator's intent in creating that content. So if you want to see it as Peter Jackson intended you to, you want to find a 48 frames per second theater that's showing it in 3D. Now, that will include some IMAX theaters, which is the best way to see 3D in my opinion. But there's yet oh, and before I go on, I want to say also, it'll be also in some ArcLight theaters. And I recommend you avoid ArcLight if you can. Why? Because ArcLight uses active shutter glasses, the same kind of glasses that you get with your Panasonic or your Samsung 3D TV. And those glasses block out so much light from reaching your eye that the picture looks very dim. IMAX, by contrast, and Real D, which is the other 3D format, which AMC uses and most other theaters use Real D. IMAX uses IMAX 3D, which is slightly different. But they both use what are called passive glasses. So they're simple polarizing filter glasses. They don't block as much of the light from getting to your eye, resulting in a brighter looking picture.
1 minute.
So that's what I recommend there. Now, in addition, The Hobbit is going to be available with a new sound format called Dolby Atmos. And this puts the sound all around you, more than 5.1 and 7.1 can possibly do. It's got a bunch of channels around the audience, plus channels overhead. So it really provides a true 3D sonic experience. Combine that with a 3D visual experience and the 48 frames per second, it's going to be amazing. I think it's just going to be astonishing. Now, Dolby Atmos will probably not be in IMAX theaters. So what I'm going to be looking for is a real D theater that's showing high frame rate and Dolby Atmos. And unfortunately, the list at 48fpsmovies.com does not include which movies are going to be showing it in Dolby Atmos. So that is going to take a little more digging, which I intend to do, and I'll tell you about it as soon as I find out. We'll be right back. I'm Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Web 7925. What kind of headphones am I wearing? I am wearing PSB M4U2 headphones, which are extremely comfortable, and they sound really good.
From your iPad, your iPhone, your Android tablet, your Android phone. I mean, anywhere.
Midnight Rider, try another laptop. Sorry, this is the only laptop we can use with this particular software.
Every printer with Epson Connect has
as far as I know.
Unique email address. All you do is you send it an email with the attachment you want to print.
So, yes, there will be 48 frames per each eye, Mooncat. That is correct. That's exactly right.
Or download
Fritz is typing in 3D. How does it look?
Whoa. Zap is like having your own digital office assistant.
iPhone 77,999. Didn't Kodak have a passive 3D system based on slightly different wavelengths of red, green, and blue for each eye? No, that wasn't Kodak. Maybe Kodak did it. I don't know. But that is how Dolby 3D works. That's exactly what Dolby 3D does. And that's not a very common 3D format. I didn't mention it before. Because you're not going to find it very much. I did not get a chance to see the 3D Vision 2D to 3D converter N40AA, sadly enough. Rusty Bones, will higher frame rate translate to Blu-ray? That's a great question. I don't know. It's going to require twice as much storage, so you'll get half as much time, unless they go to a 100-gigabyte 4-layer format, but that needs to be standardized. It's going to take a while for that to happen. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was not able to see that demo. Web 4872, want to use my 32-inch TV as a third screen for my laptop. That is not an area of my expertise, I'm sorry to say. Bill, Michigan, Leo's calibration went very well. I'm going to talk about it a lot tomorrow on Home Theater Geeks, right here from the Brick House, with Robert Heron, who's going to kibitz with me on Leo's TVs. Let's see. Airshow Voice. Can't get through on the phone. Do you like 7.1 receivers with iPad apps for controlling the system? Absolutely. Now, I'm not a big fan of touchscreen remotes, which would include an iPad, even though the iPad's big enough. The problem is you have to look at it. You can't find buttons by feel. And when you look at a bright thing like that, it's going to change your dark adaptation. Your eye. Okay, here we go. Welcome back. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I was just turning down the music a little bit there. That music, by the way, is written by my friend Jeff Rona for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And the sort of woo kind of sound you heard at the very beginning is me playing seashell trumpet. All the bumper music today is going to be music that I have been involved with one way or another, because music is seriously a part of my life. It has been a part of my life much longer even than home theater or anything else I do, almost. And so I'm very pleased to be able to bring you a variety of styles and different things that I've been involved in. That one from the Beijing Olympics in 2008 with me playing the seashell trumpet. Okay, we're going to get right to the phones. My first call is Walter in West Virginia. Hey, Walter, welcome to the show.
Hi, Scott. Thank you. I have a question about a DVR. I have Dish Network, and the frame advance function only works in one direction as you work your way toward the back of it, toward the end of a show. Mm-hmm. If you try to go forward, it won't do it. And towards the beginning of a show, it'll make much bigger jumps. It's a mess. And they have given me 3 DVRs in a row that all do the same thing. So I'm thinking of switching to DirecTV. And I think you once mentioned that you didn't think that the DirecTV picture was as good as Dish Network.
That is
that true, high definition?
That is correct. Now, the difference is minor. I will say that right up front. I notice a couple of things on DirecTV. I had Dish to begin with as well, and I switched to DirecTV primarily because I wanted to see 3D. I wanted to see what 3D broadcasting was like, and I especially wanted to see the Olympics in 3D, and they broadcast a bunch of stuff in 3D on the Olympics. So I switched to DirecTV. And I'm hanging on to it for a while so that I can, have a good run of experience with it. And as far as picture quality is concerned, I find that generally speaking, it's comparable. Every once in a while, the picture breaks up into what we call macro blocking or pixelation, where you know what I'm talking about, right? The picture starts looking kind of really grainy, like the pixels are very big. And that happens every once in a while for a moment. It's not often and it's not long, but I don't remember ever seeing it on Dish. So that's one thing. Another thing that I've noticed is that on the Fox channels in L.A. anyway, which are channels 11 and 13 for those of you in L.A., the commercials, there's a weird thing that happens with commercials. They get a serious what's called zipper effect. And so edges of objects, instead of looking jaggy, they actually look like zipper teeth. And it's very pronounced. But it's only on the Fox stations and only on the commercials. So that's weird.
I see.
That's very weird. I don't get that, and I never saw that on Dish either. So those two things aside, the DirecTV is working very well. And I have to say I really like the user interface much better. The program guide is very nice. And when you, for example, if you fast forward through a commercial, and then you hit play, it takes into account human reaction time and jumps back a little bit depending on how fast you were fast forwarding, which TiVo does as well, and I thought that was great. And Dish didn't do that, and it was always a pain to fast forward through commercial. You see the program start again, you hit play, and then you have to hit back up a little bit to start the thing.
Problems with, pardon?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, with this network DVR, you fast forward and it says it's 4x on the screen. It's not 4x. It's more like 10 or 12x.
You're right. It's going by very fast. That's true.
Yeah, much too fast. But the question is about the frame advance. Does the DirecTV DVR do frame advance properly in both directions?
It does on mine. You're talking about when you pause the image?
You pause the image, and then you hit the button once, and it moves one frame forward and stops.
Right.
And then you press the button again, it moves. Go ahead.
I think it does on mine. I can't remember, to tell you the truth, if I've ever done it in the backward direction. But in the forward direction, I don't remember ever having a problem with it. You're saying that in the forward direction it's a problem for you?
No, in the forward direction it's fine. As you work your way toward the end of a show, it's fine. You try to go toward the beginning of a show, and it makes much bigger jumps. And not only that, but then when you start to play again, it jumps 2 minutes earlier in the show, and then you have to retrace your way back again.
A full 2 minutes, really?
2 minutes. Oh, yeah, I measured it several times.
Wow.
And they say it's a software problem. and I got my new HD DVR in August. They still haven't fixed it.
Well, a couple people in the chat room are saying it works both ways. Spring Rubber and Midnight Rider are both saying it works both ways. I have to tell you, I have not necessarily tried to do frame advance in the backward direction myself. But now that you've alerted me to this problem, I'm going to go, when I get home, I'm up in Petaluma right now, but when I get back home to L.A., I'm going to give that a try and see if it does it on mine or not. A couple people in the chat room are saying they haven't experienced that, so... I don't know. That's a puzzler, all right. Could be, and they've given you different DVRs.
3 of them, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, then it's clearly a feature, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it turns out to be, right.
Yeah, well, sorry I can't help you, but, it sounds like it could be, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I would say call Dish or DirecTV again. I'm going to look into that myself.
Well, it's Dish. Dish is the problem.
Dish is the I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've had Dish, so now I can't try it because I don't have Dish anymore.
Right.
Are you in a contract? You might want to try DirecTV.
No, I'm not in a contract. I can switch, but that's why I called. I wanted to make sure the picture quality was as good.
You know, aside from those couple of minor things, I would say the picture quality is as good. And I like the user interface better. So
good. Okay, well, thank you very much.
You bet. My pleasure. Okay, let's see. Who have we got next, Kyle?
Tim in Chattanooga.
Tim in Chattanooga. Welcome. You're with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. What can I do for you?
Scott, it's good to talk with you. About 9 months back, I bought a Sharp Aquos 60-inch LED television. It's a 1080p, 240 hertz, 3D capable.
Yep.
It's a 835U model. And although I'm wonderfully pleased with the picture, I was really dismayed to find that it did not include picture-in-picture, and it also does not include an online browser. Now, I've loved all the streaming of movies. It does all of that with Hulu and Netflix and Cinema Now. But is there any capability for Sharp to upgrade the television? Their current televisions include online browsing. That was the first part of the question. And if there's no way to upgrade it, are there other good alternatives of a audio-video receiver that would do both of those functions that I could buy?
So remind me, one of them was online browsing.
Picture-in-picture.
Oh, and picture-in-picture. Picture-in-picture, I will tell you, is a feature that is fast disappearing. Because most people... Picture-in-picture was really... had two tuners. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to answer that question when we get back. So hang on there. I will get right to it. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
Hi, hon. My wife's in the chat room. Mrs. Scott. I saw, but I couldn't get to it right then. But so nice to see you in the chat room. I like very much having you there. Okay, let's see here. I've been lax in my chat rooming. Yeah, Joanna Kasdan in the chat room. Mrs. Scott. People really liked your music yesterday, hon, and we got more coming today. Let's see. The Sioux says on Dish you have to... Oh, we got it? The Sioux says on Dish you have to back up a little more at first before frame advancing. So Midnight Rider talked to Gene. He had some setbacks on the converter because of the hurricane, of course. Yikes. Thanks, Terry K. Appreciate it. Ding Chow with OLED and 4K coming. Is it worth spending cash on a 60-incher? I would say yes, because 60-inchers are pretty darn inexpensive these days. The Vizio is like $1,000, and it's pretty good. Yes, a first tomorrow, a first for HDG tomorrow from Petaluma. And Robert Heron is the guest, and he's going to be in studio as well. The new Genie DVR from DirecTV lets you do PIP. That's what I was going to talk about with Tim. The PIP has migrated out of the TV. Hey, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. What we're listening to now is the Cabrillo College Alumni Big Band playing Things Ain't What They Used to Be. And I picked this song because, you know what? Things ain't what they used to be, especially in the world of home theater. And I was talking with Tim in Chattanooga, Tennessee, about exactly that point. So let's see. Tim, are you back with me?
Yes, I'm still here,
Okay,
Scott.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about picture-in-picture first, because that is a feature, as I said, that is disappearing. Things ain't what they used to be with PIP. Especially in TVs. Now, it used to be that TVs had two tuners in them, and you could watch one thing on the big most of the screen, and then another channel on the smaller screen, the little inset screen. But TV manufacturers have been eliminating that feature because they realize that most people are not using the internal tuner of the TV as their primary receiver of TV content. They're using satellite, they're using cable, they're using online, various other sources of information, of content and programming. So they figured, well, we need to keep a tuner in the TV, but we only need one, really, because people are going to get their stuff from other sources. So any PIP that does exist, it will be with the tuner and then with one of the, say, HDMI inputs that will be bringing in your cable or your satellite or something like that. The other thing to keep in mind, it's been pointed out in the chat room as well, is that satellite receivers and cable boxes now often come with PIP because those are the sources of your TV content. So if you want to watch one thing in the main picture and another thing in the little inset window, satellite boxes and cable boxes virtually all have at least 2 tuners, sometimes more. So you can use the PIP from the receiver rather than in the TV. So that's what I have to say about that. You're just not going to find it in TVs anymore. Do you have a satellite or cable?
Well, I have a very old DirecTV MPEG-2 high-definition receiver. And it does not include PIP in it.
Okay, well, it's old.
Upgrading that to dish, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but a lot. You mentioned MPEG-2, which is the video encoding format that has been used for high-def broadcasts. Satellite, in particular, has moved on to MPEG-4, which is more efficient, so it doesn't require as much bandwidth for sending the signal from the satellite. But your receiver won't be able to receive that because it's an MPEG-2 receiver. Yeah, so you need to upgrade your receiver, certainly.
I need to upgrade the receiver, right? Clearly.
And I'll bet you, dimes to donuts, as my dad used to say, that the new receiver will have PIP in it. So that's the answer to that question. The other question you had was regarding web browsing. Now, the Sharp TV that you got has some apps in it, right? So it lets you watch YouTube and Netflix and stuff like that?
It includes Hulu. It includes
Hulu Plus, by the way, not regular Hulu.
Plus, yeah. Right.
You have to pay for that.
Right. It includes Cinema Now, and it includes 2 or 3 fairly limited functions, but it does not include an online direct browser to go pick any online source.
Right. Now, that's a very, very new feature that a few TVs are starting to get, and other devices too, like Blu-ray players and so on. But it's pretty brand new. So I'm not surprised that your TV doesn't have it. You might be able to get it in a very modern Blu-ray player. I can't think of a Panasonic might have a general purpose browser in it at this point. I think part of the reason that has been slow to come into the marketplace is that they don't want you to go surfing to free sites like Hulu, not Hulu Plus, but Hulu, regular Hulu. They want you to only go to the sites that the manufacturer has partnered up with. So almost all of them have partnered up with Netflix, so they have an app for that. Almost all of them have partnered up with YouTube, so they have an app for that. Many of them have partnered up with Hulu Plus, so they have an app for that. But they limit you, as you have said, and rightly so, to only those content providers that they have partnered up with. So they don't want to give you a browser because then you can just go anywhere. Now,
the newest Sharps do include a browser, but that's kind of the question. Can they upgrade the older television software to include the browser?
Sure. Can they do a firmware upgrade? Have you tried doing a firmware upgrade on that TV?
I have done an upgrade. They've changed the apps once or twice with upgrades, but they haven't offered a browser yet.
Well, they may or may not. That may be something that has some hardware requirement. I don't really know. I would suggest if you want a browser on your TV, the best way to do it is to have a computer in your home theater, because that's clear. You can do that, no problem. Even if a TV does have a browser, it may very well, for example, prevent you from going to Hulu.com, regular free Hulu, because it detects that it's coming from a TV. And it says, wait a second, we don't want you to be watching free Hulu on your TV, on your big screen TV. We want you to be the only way you can watch that is on your computer. So even if you get a browser, it may still be limited because the website will say, hey, you're coming to me from a TV. I can't let you watch me. So, you know, but still in all, having a browser would be a good thing, and I've always wanted that myself.
Well, are there other audio-video receivers that build all that in?
As I said, AV receivers specifically, probably not. I don't know of any, certainly. Blu-ray players, possibly. I don't think Roku or any of the streamer boxes have that. I may be wrong about that. I'm not that up to date on all those streamer boxes. Blu-ray players, as I said, Panasonic or Samsung might possibly do it. If Sharp is offering it in their TV, they may very well be offering it in their Blu-ray player as well. In which case, and a Blu-ray player is not very expensive, maybe $100 or less even these days. Right. So you might go and see if there's a Sharp Blu-ray player or a Blu-ray player from another manufacturer, Panasonic and Samsung or Sony or LG, although we've had mixed results with LG Blu-ray players, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend those. But I definitely would.
Scott, I appreciate it. You're doing a great job filling in for Leo.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your call, and good luck to you. Okay, let's see here. Let me go to... Oh, somebody's offline here. Online, Jillian in San Juan Capistrano. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hi, Scott. Can
1 minute.
I've got you on speakerphone because I poised to take some notes.
Oh, well, okay. I'll try and make some noteworthy comments then.
Well, I have a question for you, which is probably too elementary for you, but I'll tell you my problem.
No such thing.
My daughter just got married last month, and they're broke. Big surprise.
Well, congratulations on getting married, and sorry they're broke.
Yeah, well, you know, them and everyone else. At least both of them have jobs. Anyway, I was thinking they can't afford, they have Wi-Fi, but they can't afford cable TV right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the brilliant idea of getting them a Roku box for Christmas.
You bet.
However, now I find out I need a router, and I don't know, there's a whole bunch of different Roku boxes and a whole bunch of different routers, and I want a good one and one, I don't know if they have an HD TV or not, but one that they can grow into. I don't want to buy them El Cheapo and then have it be obsolete in 32 days.
Sure.
So can you give me some help as far as parameters and stuff?
I sure can, right after the break. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear. Good work.
You know, I love the post office. They gave me this mug. But I don't... I do. I have a Postal Service mug. But I don't spend much time at the post office because I don't have time to spend at the post office, and I don't need to because I have Stamps.com. It is a totally fantastic way to get all your mailing needs done. It really turns your small business into a fulfillment giant. You know, these are the tools the big boys have. You know, things like emails. You ever get an email saying your package is on its way, here's the tracking number, all that stuff? Stamps.com does that. With Express Mail and Priority Mail. Of course, I always mention that it prints your own postage, but that's kind of the simplest thing that it does. Yeah, you can buy and print U.S. postage with your computer, your printer. You don't need a postage meter. You just need Stamps.com. But really, it's a whole mailing solution. You will never go to the post office again. The mail carrier comes. You can schedule free pickups anytime you want. It comes, gets the stuff. Packages, letters, the envelopes. If you're sending, I should have some Stamps.com. So this is a postage meter, right? The old school way of doing that. You run that. No, with Stamps.com, you have an envelope in you have your envelopes in your printer. It pulls the addresses from QuickBooks or your address book, and you press one button, and the envelopes come out with postage on them, with your company's logo, with the address, the return address, the whole thing. Automatically. For packages, you plop them on that USB scale, and then it prints out the mailing label. It does international mail. It does, it's just fantastic. I think you're going to love Stamps.com. That's why I got a 30-day free trial for you. Not the one right on the front. Don't go to that $80 bonus value. You've got to try it. You've got to try it. by my special value, special offer, go to the radio microphone up in the corner here. Here's a little Easter egg. Click that radio microphone, enter the offer code Tech Guy, and whoa, $80 turns into $110. That's $55 in postage coupons. The free digital scale, the $5 supply kit, the 4-week trial, just for using Tech Guy as the promo code. You got to try it. Stamps.com, promo code Tech Guy. I'm telling you, it turns you into a pro in terms of like a mailing wizard. Stamps.com.
Let me just turn that down a little bit. I'm looking up Roku to make sure I know what I'm talking about here. Bring the chat room back. Hello, chat room. Yes, John was exactly right. The first thing I have to ask is whether they even have internet, because otherwise it is moot. The question is moot. Roku box.
And he said cybersecurity for the Mac introduces a unique complementary educational component alongside it.
Continuing on that line.
Yes. And of course, because it's protection, you won't even notice it.
It could be they have internet, just don't have Wi-Fi.
Don't take my word for it. Try it for 30 days. Go to eset.com/Mac. Give it a free test drive. And don't forget to like ESET USA on Facebook. And add ESET USA to your circles on Google Plus. Stay looped in on contests, special offers, and exclusive.
Most everybody has Wi-Fi.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, but if in fact it's a weird situation where she's already smarter than us and she knows they have Ethernet but they don't have Wi-Fi and these require Wi-Fi, that's why she wants a router.
Right.
Possibly.
Possibly. Yes. We'll talk about all that stuff. Sunny Manitoba. OLEDs get the Vaporware Product of the Year award. Well, that's sort of true. I still do expect to see them. Midnight Rider, I don't know what the Leaf is. What is the Leaf? Yeah, Sunny Manitoba. Yeah, OLEDs will be at CES 2013. They said, LG said they were going to be selling by the end of the year. So they still have a month and a half to go to make good on that. Oh, digital antenna. I was going to talk about over the air as well. Absolutely. Okay, so now I know what the difference is between all the different Rokus. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. And Renaissance musician. That piece is one of the dances that we played at the Renaissance Pleasure Fair here in California with the Southern California Early Music Consort. I'm playing bass sackbut on this piece. And there's a little xylophone, some recorder, some other sackbuts going on there. Sackbut, by the way, is the Renaissance trombone. Looks very much like a regular trombone, except the bell is smaller. So that's what she said. Sorry. Let's get back to Jillian, shall we? On line 3. Jillian, you with me?
I sure am.
Good deal. So we were talking about your daughter, I think, just got married, right?
Right, and I know less than nothing about what I'm talking about, so I'm calling you.
Okay.
I think I want to buy her a Roku, but then I find out I have to have a router, and I need to know about what price I should be. Like they have Rokus from $50 to $100. Right.
Let me clear that up for you. First of all, let me ask you this: do they have internet access to begin with?
They have Wi-Fi.
Oh, they do have Wi-Fi.
Right.
Okay, so they have a router already. You don't need to buy them a router. They already have a router. They already have a router that has Wi-Fi.
I kind of said I'm buying them Wi-Fi from Cox Communications. Is that going to be a router in there?
Yes. There is. Is there internet service provided by Cox Communications?
Yeah. Well, I'm buying her I'm buying her Wi-Fi from Cox.
Okay, so you're buying her internet access itself.
Well, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's what you're doing, and they will get a router with that.
So
you don't need to buy.
Just saved me $100.
You don't need to buy them anything else in terms of a router, because when you sign them up for internet access via cable modem, via cable, which is, in my opinion, the better way to go, then they will get a router with that, and it'll have Wi-Fi, and that'll be fine. So all you need to do is worry about the Roku. Now, now
you tell me. I don't mind paying $100, but I don't want to pay $100 that's $10 more because if it's got Chrome on it.
Right. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. Do you know if they have a high-definition TV? I'm going to assume they do.
I believe they do, but it's a couple years old. Okay,
well, it's still high definition. Okay, well, here's the deal. There are 4 models of Roku. There's the Roku LT, the Roku HD, the Roku 2 XD, and the Roku 2 XS. And they get more and more expensive as you go up that line. Now, the first two, the LT and the HD, their resolution, that is the crispness, the amount of information in the picture, only goes up to 720p. Now, I won't. What that means is that it's not quite as sharp as.
I noticed that the more expensive ones were 1080p.
Yes, and when you said to me specifically that you wanted to be sure that it was future-proof a little bit anyway, obsolescence-proof at least for a while.
Right.
I would say definitely get one of the ones that are 1080p. So that would be.
Now, they both say that they're wireless. What the heck is the difference?
The difference between them is that the Roku 2 XS, the most expensive one, has motion control for games. So if they're going to play online games, they could do motion control of their games, which the 2XD does not have. The 2XS has free Angry Birds game on it, which to me means.
God, I'm deep into Angry Birds Star Wars right now. Don't tell me.
Uh-oh. You're deep into Angry Birds?
Yeah, I know. And my 9-year-old grandson thinks I'm nuts.
Well, in that case, you might want to get the 2XS, the most expensive one, because it comes with Angry Birds. And you and your grandson can play to your heart's content.
That's true. Now, does that XS mean that if he's got like an Xbox 360 or something, that it's better, or does that have any bearing at all on it?
It doesn't really have any bearing at all on it. It's the Xbox 360. Okay. It's a separate item, exactly. Now you probably have Angry Birds on the Xbox, so you have it there already, right?
Well, he's got a Wii. I don't know if he's got an Xbox yet. Not at her house.
Okay.
Let me ask you one. Jade, I'm going to ask you one more stupid question, and it just flew out of my mind.
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And while you're thinking about it, let me tell you that the last thing that the 2XS has that none of the others has is an Ethernet port. So you can that lets you do it either with Wi-Fi or with hardwired Ethernet cable. And I will tell you this, when it comes to streaming high-definition video, I prefer a hardwired Ethernet connection over Wi-Fi because it's much more reliable, and depending on which Wi-Fi version it is, it'd probably be N in a modern new router that you get from Cox Communication. So it won't matter that much. But
well, the only problem with that is that she's paying for an air card from Verizon for her laptop, and she could get rid of that.
Ah, I see. Okay.
If I get Wi-Fi.
Okay. Well, even so, the router itself that you get from Cox will have at least a couple of Ethernet ports on it. And if you had trouble streaming high definition, if they had trouble streaming high definition from the Roku to their TV, they could always try a hardwire Ethernet cable and see if that improved the situation. And the only Roku that you can do that with is the 2XS. Now, I will tell you this also.
I think you've made up my mind for me. The stupid question I just remembered is, okay, there's Hulu Plus and there's Netflix.
Yep.
I excuse me?
I say, go ahead, please.
I kind of know about Netflix. Hulu Plus, is that just similar to Netflix in content, or are there things that one has that the other one doesn't have, or do you have to buy both?
Well, you don't have to buy both, but certainly Hulu Plus does have things that Netflix does not, and vice versa. Netflix is more about movies, although it also has plenty of TV shows as well. But Hulu Plus is more about TV shows. So,
do you know, just out of curiosity, does Hulu Plus carry CBS shows? Because, like, my on-demand shows everybody's network except CBS will put their darn shows on demand.
Well, I'm not entirely sure. Let's see if the chat room knows whether Hulu Plus carries CBS. iDroid7 says no CBS. So CBS may be doing something. Something.
Yeah, they make me mad.
They're making it hard, and they're making you mad. I understand. iDroid7 says ABC, Fox, and NBC, but not CBS. And somebody else in the chat room is saying, yes, Netflix is more about movies. Hulu Plus is more about TV, and you can get the current modern, the recent shows on Hulu Plus, whereas Netflix TV shows are usually the older episodes that have been out for a while. So that's a big difference between them.
Are they comparable in monthly? I think Netflix is around $8 a month.
I think they're exactly the same. I think they're both $8 or $9 a month.
For the bottom of my heart, you saved me some money and also some worries. So thank you so much. You're going to make my daughter's Christmas a very nice one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for calling, and a Merry Christmas to your whole family. Okay, let's go to Mike. Oh, hang on a second.
Hello?
Oh, yes. Hi, Mike. Can you hang on one quick second?
I sure can.
I did want to say. Go ahead and do his call. We don't have time at this point.
Okay, Mike. I'm going to have to put you back on hold and catch you after the break. Is that okay?
That sounds fine. Thank
Great.
you.
I sure appreciate it. I do want to make one more mention to the last caller about Roku, which is that Roku is on sale in Black Friday, in a lot of different Black Friday situations. At Best Buy, you're going to save $20 off all models of Roku. And I'm sorry I forgot to mention that to her when she was on the air. I hope she's still listening. But the 2XS, which I think is the one she's going to buy, is going to be on sale for $80 off 20% off of $100 list price. Now, interestingly, Best Buy is selling all the Roku models at $20 off, which means that if you get the less expensive ones, you're saving more percentage-wise. So the Roku HD is $40 off from $60. You're saving 33%. The 2XD is $80, saving 25%, and the 2XS is 20%. So either way, you're going to save some money. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So John Jammer B just said that he got an email from Roku saying, check their website on Black Friday. So that would be another thing to do. Best Buy is making a pretty good deal, but Roku may be offering even better deals on Black Friday. So those of you, pardon me, listening in the chat room, definitely want to check that out.
And why you should try it right now to save money, get more done, and never visit the post
Let's
office.
See.
Try my special offer. It's a no-risk trial, plus a
Sorry?
$110 bonus offer.
Nah.
Includes a digital scale.
Nah, I'm good. Thank you, though.
$5 free postage. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click the radio microphone.
UK Man 2012, does Sonos play 320 kilobits per second sound through Spotify Premium? I honestly don't know. I don't have a Sonos myself. I need to get one. Let's see. Let's see here. TM204 really wants a Roku. They are pretty cool. B-Tree says, I'm not alone in not liking Angry Birds. That's nice. Glad to hear that. PC Guy makes a very good point. Should mention that Roku boxes and any kind of streaming is going to cut into data caps. You know, I should have made that point as well. What's that? No, they're for home too. Oh, yeah. Really? And you've never... Well, you may be one of the lucky ones that doesn't have a data cap, but I mean, I think my Charter Communications is 150 gigs a month.
From Premier Radio Network.
Yeah. And if you exceed that, they'll either charge you a boatload or they'll throttle you down. Yeah. It must not. You're a lucky dude. But no, that's exactly right. Midnight Rider, whatever happened to Movie Beam? Yeah, I don't know. That was a Disney thing for a while where they would beam you movies from a satellite. I don't know.
From Premier Radio Network.
So, an interesting thing about the Roku box.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Also on Boxy.
Right now, it's not as reliable as we'd like.
Really?
Yeah. Because of Wirecast, and we have a very powerful box, but it's still Wirecast.
You're tuned to Premier Channel 7. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, will begin at 6
What is that?
minutes past the hour. From Premier Radio Network.
That you would put in here. Yeah.
We got one, but we want to get a bigger one. But when we did the test on the one we had, it really improves the HLS, the HTML live streaming, that is the flow star, that is the Roku and all the iOS, and I want it all.
Really nice, huh?
This is Premier Channel 7. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, will begin at 6 minutes past the hour. From Premier Radio Network.
Wow. I hope everybody heard that. Jammer B was just telling me how they're getting a new streaming box in here called the Elemental, which will really improve the quality of the stream to Roku and presumably to Boxy and any other of the streamers. HTML live streaming, HLS. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. It'll make Home Theater Geeks look better.
Tech guy will begin at 6 minutes past the hour. From Premier Radio Network.
Why this is, but that streaming is behind all those.
Really?
It's a reflector. It's called multiple things before it comes out.
So it's delayed some. Sure. Yeah.
Tuned to Premier Channel 7.
Oh, and that's the one, and it's more delayed than the other ones.
From Premier Radio Network.
It's a problem for the people in chat. You're 20 seconds behind.
Yeah. Wordsworth says the way around data caps is to purchase a small business ISP data plan, typically no caps. That's interesting. Dr. Mack would like to find out the best direction for my parents to take in upgrading television speakers, mini hi-fi, and so on. Current setup includes Sony 32-inch tube TV, Charter cable, first-generation TiVo, pair of wireless HD speakers connected to Sony mini Wi-Fi. Mini hi-fi includes 3-disc CD changer. Wow, that's a lot. And there could be lots of answers to that. It's a bit more than I can take on at the moment. And let me think about that. I'll try and get back to it. Mr. Biggs says, trying to decide between Energy Take Classic or the Pioneer Andrew Jones speakers. Which ones do I recommend? That's an easy answer. Well, it's not so easy because they're both really good. The Energy Take Classic is a lot smaller. So if you're super tightly space constrained, then the Energy Take Classic is probably the better choice. But the Andrew Jones speakers sound so good, and I think they're less expensive too. But they are a little boxy, even the bookshelves. So, but if you can accommodate their size, which isn't huge, but it's bigger than the Energies, I would probably go with those, save some money, and they just sound fantastic, just amazing. Oh, my wife sent a link to the Angry Birds theme performed by the London Philharmonic Orchestra on YouTube. So go check that out. That should be pretty cool.
You're tuned to Premier Channel.
Web 7925. No, sadly, I am not sitting in for Leo next week. He will be back from his trip. I get one weekend, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So let's see, what else have we got here? Best TV under $400? It would be pretty small.
You're tuned to Premier
I would
Channel
say probably Vizio. I would say that they're probably going to be the best. It's going to be a 32 or something. Here we go. Well, hello there. Welcome. I'm Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, filling in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy, who's on a fabulous Australian cruise with a boatload of Mac geeks. He's snorkeling around the Great Barrier Reef and out on the Coral Sea watching total solar eclipses. Well, at least one. Meanwhile, I get to sit here and talk with all of you about my favorite subject, which is home theater. And what a fun time we're having so far. I'm going to get right back to the phones with Mike in Santa Ana. I had to put you on hold last hour. Mike, you're back with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. How can I help you?
Well, I was hoping you could give me some insight to what is involved with the RGB analog video signal.
Okay.
Where there's like 4 separate wires that connect up to a display and coming off of like a special kind of camera controller.
Okay. You're really talking about RGB here rather than component, YPRPB?
Yes. It's an RGB analog signal.
Okay.
Before they had high def and all those kinds of things, I mean, this was supposed to have incredible resolution and all kinds of things like that.
And this is you said a camera controller?
Yeah. It's basically a direct video feed off a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And comes out with the interface to the display is actually 4 separate wires with BNC connectors on them.
Oh, so it's a real professional unit.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so there are 4 connectors. They are red, RG and B for red, green, and blue, which is how all.
And the other one carries basically the synchronization.
Synchronization, precisely, exactly right. Well. You know, that is a very high-quality connector, or transmission scheme, I should say. But you need something at the other end to receive it. What do you have at the other end that's going to understand that signal?
Well, it's some older style equipment, but it's CRT-based systems that's designed for it.
Okay.
That has a whole lot of different inputs, and it's designed for the RGB analog input.
Mm-hmm. Well, it probably looks fabulous. That sounds like a really professional setup where, and only recently did professional facilities switch over from CRT tube-based TVs, which it sounds like what you've got. Because CRTs had certain qualities that have been very hard to replicate in the more modern flat panel technologies of plasma and LCD. In particular, black levels. Blacks on CRTs are deeper than just about any flat panel you can get today. The Pioneer Kuro, the fabled, long-lamented Pioneer Kuro, which is no longer being made, achieves those black levels, as does certain very high-end LCD TVs with a feature called local dimming. They are able to reach down to those very, very deep levels of black, which is so important for picture quality, because without it, the picture looks kind of washed out. Even if you're watching a bright image and it doesn't have any black parts in it, you want that dynamic range, that visual dynamic range, which is how it's defined from the deepest black to the whitest white that the display can reproduce. So for that reason, using this system that you've got is what has been used professionally up until only very recently. So it's going to look great. I don't see any reason not to, especially. But you're only going to get the feed from the camera, right? So it's footage that you yourself are shooting. In terms of commercial content, like broadcast, cable, satellite, Blu-ray, anything like that.
Yeah, it doesn't really have any application with commercial content or TV shows or Blu-rays or something like that.
No. It should. It looks.
It's a very specialized camera that actually it's coming out of one technology and being adapted for something else, basically as an inspection camera.
Oh, so you take that camera and you're
adapting some old technology. It actually used to be medical equipment.
Sure. Well,
it's really, really high end back in the days before they even started doing the SVGA. But this was like as high a level as you could get back
Sure,
then.
of course. And for the medical applications, you need super high resolution because as you're poking around in somebody's gut, you really want to see you really want to see some detail in there, so that makes perfect sense that's what it was for. But it should be a fabulous looking picture from that camera, no question about it.
Now, years ago, I was involved with some of the monitor display stuff and a manufacturer and all those kinds of things, where I got familiar with basically what they put in the NTSC composite signal, and how they've got all of their little different patterns on how the signal's transmitted, and then later on when they went to the TTL for the color and CGA and VGA. And the one thing that I just don't know is how big or how wide the swing of signal is on this RGB analog.
I'm afraid I couldn't tell you that. How big is the voltage swing on an old analog RGB signal? Man, you're getting geeky.
It sounds pretty silly.
You're getting super geeky on me here. I am much more involved in the digital side of things where that sort of thing doesn't really matter. But
one of the things I was imagining, and I don't know, but with some of the other technologies as they brought them along, I was kind of wondering if this whole, what I still consider a modern revolution of the high def and all the different versions of high def and all that, this is just something that grew out of that high quality analog signal that used to be used for, professional video recording and on some of this older, specialized equipment.
Well, sure.
If basically that just all merged into what they refined it and came up with the HD and all that stuff.
In a sense, I think you're right. They certainly built upon that foundation of the high-quality analog RGB. But analog and digital are fundamentally different beasts, right? Still in all, even in digital.
It would have to change the signal into some kind of numeric value and all that.
Right, exactly. And, even in digital, they're still transmitting essentially red, green, and blue. So in that sense, they're related, but they're now transmitting those colors as digital information rather than as voltage swings on a wire. So that's really sort of the difference there. You mentioned composite, and I want to mention that that is when you take the color and black and white information and smush them all together into one cable, and it's by far the worst way to go. It'll only carry standard definition. Then there's S-video, which separates out the color information from the black and white information. Then there's component, which is otherwise called color difference, which separates out the black and white information and sort of separates out the color information somewhat. And then there's RGB, which is the true, fully separated color information, which is the best quality that of type of signal you're going to get. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody before we go, and I thank you so much for the call.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks
All
for
right.
calling. Okay, we've only got a few seconds left, so I'm not going to pick up another call. I am going to mention Black Friday, which I was talking about off the air, and Jillian was calling about Roku boxes, and Black Friday is going to be the place to do it. I got another little thing to tell you about on that regard, so stick around. It's Scott Wilkinson, the Home Theater Geek.
Clear. Good work with that tease. That was a nice little wrap-up.
Thank you. Oh.
If you're assistant man or you're in IT, you know the classic.
Looks like my wife is signing off to go do Sunday chores. Bye, hon. Glad to see you around here for a while. I miss you. I look forward to coming home and seeing you. So let's see. Midnight Rider is asking if I'm familiar with a 3dBx range expander. Well, I'm certainly familiar with DBX as a brand, and I assume you're talking about audio range expansion, which certainly can be done. I must admit I haven't used it, so I can't say whether it does a good thing or not. If so, will it work on audio decompression on CDs or other audio formats? I'm not sure I would expand the dynamic range of a CD. Certainly, radio content, the dynamic range is heavily compressed, and as it is, I guess, on a lot of pop CDs as well. I should amend that. So perhaps expanding the dynamic range might work, but you're kind of guessing a little bit at it. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. DBX is a good company. I've used their products before, not necessarily that particular one. But that would be something it might be interesting to think about. Sunny Manitoba is saying Sears has a 50-inch Toshiba LED for $300 on Black Friday. Holy smokes! That's really something. Now I haven't been that thrilled with Toshiba LEDs in the past. The ones I've seen, I haven't seen anything super recently, but I've not been super impressed with Toshiba. Still in all, $300 for a 50-inch? Holy smokes. Use my name, Leo. Certainly Beatmaster DBX makes good compressors, the 166 or 266. And I have used those for things like vocals and guitars and stuff like that. But expanding the dynamic range is kind of another interesting thing. Yeah, it was nice, Duck Feed, and nice of Joanna to drop by. We have a very cool marriage. I enjoy being with her tremendously. And thanks, Loquacious. Yes, nice lady and a talented singer. We're going to hear more of her voice coming up here before too long. Let me see if I can let me look at my Sunday music schedule. What time is it getting to be? We're going to hear her at the end of this hour. And Chris Marquardt should be coming up. Chris, are you still in the chat room? You're going to be coming up after the next segment. So looking forward to that. UK Man, 2012. Am I going to get a Pono player? P-O-N-O? I don't know what that is. Bash, do I receive OTA HD TV? Absolutely. I am in clear line of sight of Mount Wilson, and I get lots of OTA HD TV, and I like it very much. I use my TiVo Series 3. Midnight Rider looked up Movie Beam, and it looks like it's still alive. Wow. I hadn't heard of it for years. Wordsworth, how did I meet my wife? We were set up. We both told the same friend within a week of each other, that the same mutual friend, that we were looking for a serious relationship. And so this mutual friend said, well, let me put together a dinner party. And the rest, as they say, was history. Let's make sure we don't miss this. I think here it comes.
All right, Scott, you got to give me that live read here, though.
Will do.
You're on.
Welcome back. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This is the Rakia Balkan Brass Band that I play in. This tune is called Rečenica, and it's wild, wacky, wonderful dance music from the Balkans. From Serbia and Croatia and Macedonia, all those places where they play lots of brass music and dance up a storm. So I'm very happy to be involved in that band. This is a live recording from a dance that we did. Anyway, get caught up in it. It's really fun. Now let's get back to the phones. I think Rick in Pasadena has been waiting a while. Hey, Rick, Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. How you doing?
Hi, Scott. Doing well. I have an audio question.
Sure.
I'm playing iTunes in my desktop computer to my speakers in the living room. And the way I'm doing it is I'm running the line from the headphone jack in my desktop computer, then it's connected to the RCA cables, then to my amplifier in the living room, and then, of course, to the speakers. I want to get the best sound. So my question is, am I doing it the best way?
No. I would say not. Probably a much better way to do it is going to be to do it over the network. Now, there are pluses and minuses in both of these ways. Do you have, I assume you have a router in your house?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I have a router.
Yeah, is it Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I've got a router, and I have it connected to Wi-Fi. I'm running my desktop hardline.
Right. Well, that's good. There are plenty of ways to access the music files on your desktop remotely over the network. You can do it by the TV probably will do it, although I wouldn't want to play the sound on the TV speakers. Your receiver might be able to do it. What's the receiver that you have? The AV receiver.
It's just a regular amplifier. I have no TV.
Ah, okay. You have no TV. Okay.
Simple.
Well, certainly an Apple TV device. Roku might do it as well. I must admit I don't know. Let me see if I can find out real quick. Chat room can probably help me out here as well. That you can. Most consumer electronics devices today, certainly those that are networkable, will have an application that lets you pull the music from your computer and put it just about anywhere. And it can do it over Ethernet or it can do it over Wi-Fi. And you take that box, I think an Apple TV would be one. Roku probably does it, although I don't see right now on the Roku site that it can, but it may very well be able to. Duckfeet in the chat room is saying Plex is the app that you want. Are you running on a Mac or a Windows? Mac. So another media server software that I know on the Mac is called Twonky Media. But Duckfeet is saying you could get a Roku box and use Plex. So one way or another, you'd want an app on your computer that lets it act as a server, and you'd want a device in your living room or wherever your speakers are, wherever your amp is, that acts as a network receiver. Airport Express, especially since he doesn't have a TV, Web 7742 is saying. And Caffeine-Free Dave is saying a USB DAC, digital to analog converter, might be a better solution. I must admit that that this is not an area that I am particularly well versed in. So I'm really, really grateful to have the chat room on hand to help me with this, because I know that they probably know more about it than I do. They are Leo's brain, after all, and in some cases, mine as well. Let's see. B-Tree is...
This must be a pretty common issue for people. I think
it is.
A lot of people are running.
Yes.
I'm wanting to.
You're right. It is a very common issue. AirPlay with Airport Express, iPhone 54411 is saying. Beatmaster is saying Twonky is the most standardized, which is true. And Sybil is saying, don't forget that Airport Express is usually discounted on Black Friday at the Apple Store. So an Airport...
I have an Airport Extreme.
I'm sorry?
I have an Airport Extreme.
Okay, well, that should do the same thing.
Yeah.
I assume that would do exactly the same thing. So you should be able to set that up in your listening room and have the audio outputs from the Airport Extreme. I assume it has audio outputs. It must. And
I assume.
Yeah, and put those into the amplifier, and then stream the audio files from your computer over the network to the Airport Extreme. That should do the trick. Exactly.
So, in other words, I connect my computer to the Airport Extreme, and then the Airport Extreme broadcasts it to my computer? I'm still not clear.
Okay, let's see if... Let's see if we can get some help in the chat room here, because I must admit I'm not entirely clear either.
1 minute.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Airport Extreme does not have an audio out, so Buckmaster is telling me. So still needs the Airport Express. You still need to go to Apple Store and get an Airport Express. You connect, and so your router, is the Airport Extreme your router? Is that what you're using for a router?
Well, I've got a router through AT&T Uverse, and my Airport Extreme is connected to the router.
I see. Okay. Well, still, an Airport Express in your listening room should do it. Da Vinci Wonder is saying if you want to avoid a set-top box, another box like we've been talking about, you could run digital coax that long distance. You could. That's a long cable.
It's about 15 feet.
Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, no, then a digital coax cable would work great. As long as you have a digital audio output, you're fine. Thanks so much for the call. I really appreciate it. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Okay, clear.
Okay, Uncle Bick 2 has got it. The Extreme is a router. The Express is a small device that picks up the signal from the Extreme and then has audio out. Okay.
All right, I got a problem. I have to send radio recordings, voice tracks, lots of stuff out to the radio stations. And I used to use, kind of a consumer-based service to do this, and it just was terrible. There was one guy who was deleting all the files. I lost control of the files when I tried to share them. That's when I talked to the folks at Citrix about their newest product, ShareFile. Secure file transfer built for business. I said, well, how does it work? And they explained it to me, and I said, can I get an account? And they set me up. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to log into my ShareFile account. Notice, by the way, it's branded with our TWiT logo. They completely brand it for your business and for your company. So here's all the recordings I have to send out to, by the way, notice there's an address book here of all the people I send files to. There are different permissions for different people. That's really important. I could send an entire folder. They have an Outlook plugin that makes this really easy. You send it just like an attachment, but it is not an email attachment. Email attachments, as you probably know if you've listened to me for any length of time, are not safe. So let's say I want to send all of these WAV files out to Kyle, which is actually what I want to do. I press the send button here. Now, I could just do it like this, send it in an email, say, hey, Kyle, and he's in my address book. Kyle, hey, here's the stuff. Actually, here's the stuff, and write a little message, and then I can send it. But I got to show you another way to do it, and I kind of more often do this. I don't know why. It's probably easier to do the other. Look at this. Let me zoom in. This is the kind of control you have at ShareFile. This is why it's HIPAA compliant with regulations in many, many industries. Email when the items downloaded. These are all options. Require recipients to enter name and email before downloading. You could say how long the download's good for. A year, 6 months, a day, never expires. How many downloads per user? So you could say you can download this once for 1 day and never again. There are plenty of times you want that. And then you click the send file button and you get this link, and this is so cool. Now this is a link that I will tell you what, I'll do this, show you what they're going to see. I'm going to enter this into my address bar, and you'll see what they'll see. They don't have to join ShareFile. A lot of these services you do. They get a very easy-to-use page with my company logo on it, yes. It's got, for your convenience, a zip file is created when you download multiple files. If you do not know how to unzip files, click here for instructions. It couldn't be easier. They get to check the files they want, press the download button. It tells them how big it's going to be, tells them who created it, and then I'm notified that they downloaded it. This is just what you want. If you're trying to share files in business, do not send emails. You know that. And don't use those commercial programs. They're just not designed for business. This is secure, private. You never lose control. Oh, by the way, you can log on. I have a ShareFile app on all my devices. So if I forget to mail something out, I just use my ShareFile app on my Android or iPhone. And I say, oh, send that one to Kyle. I forgot to send it to him. This happens all the time. People say, hey, did you send me the ad? And I say, whoops. So I go on a ShareFile, and it's easy. There's my ShareFile account right there on my Android phone. Look at that. I could even create files, upload files to send out via ShareFile. I am a big fan. I want you to try it free for 30 days. Visit sharefile.com. Click the radio microphone. See, this is the same stuff that I was just showing you. These are the same files, and now I can send them to anybody I want to. It's really great. Sharefile.com. The offer code is TechGuy. And then you get all the same features here on the... isn't that nice to be able to do that on your phone? I just love that. And the app is free. 30 days free, actually, if you try it right now when you use the offer code TechGuy at sharefile.com. We thank them so much for the support of the Tech Guy podcast. It makes it possible for us to do these each and every week. Now back to the show.
Want to talk to Mr. Marquardt?
Yes, he's coming up.
He's right behind you.
Ah, excellent.
Well, yes.
Hello,
Mr.
Chris
Wilkinson.
Marquardt. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So glad to have you here. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I've been busting some photography myths over the last shows with Leo, and this time I would like to talk about the myth that you can avoid dust getting on your camera sensor by changing the lens with the camera pointing downwards.
Ooh, a very good myth. Well, one.
Oh yeah, lots
of people believe that. Maybe even me.
So I want to generally talk a bit about what sensor dust is, how it gets in the camera, how lenses aren't hermetically sealed, all these kind of things.
Sure, that's great. Now, what about? I'm going to ask you this
watching on video. For those watching on video, I have a little air pump here, so we can kind of demonstrate a few things,
Excellent.
at least visually. But I'm going to talk about it, obviously, so it works on the video.
Perfect. If I have time, I'll ask you, but I'll ask you now. On the Canon cameras that have this little shaky thing that they do when you turn them off, supposedly to clean off the sensor, does that do anything?
Oh yes, it does. There's we can talk about this when we're on.
Yeah.
Something I've actually planned. Let me shaky thing. That sounds good. How's the video? Looks a bit dark. Let me fix that here.
That looks fine.
Oh, it's actually looking good.
It looks a little dark on the monitor behind me, but I've noticed that too. But when you're on by yourself, it's fine.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
As the home theater geek, I'm somewhat tentatively looking to. I don't have a big flat screen TV, so the thing that I would need one for is to watch TV from several sources. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for a decent panel that has like 4 different HDMI inputs, and that's pretty much it. So I'm looking for low feature, just a few inputs, but a decent panel. Is there anything that right off the bat you can recommend there?
Well, it would depend on your budget, for one thing.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, hang on.
No, I was going to say, that's a good question. Can we do it on air?
Well, we can, except
you don't have enough time. I mean, and then get right into Chris's myth. I know that. I know Chris wants to do that, but it's good. It would, kick off the theme.
Okay. Chris, are you want to do that real quick on the air?
Oh, totally, no problem.
Okay.
That's cool. I think it just reinforces the callers that it's home theater too that are calling.
Sure, perfect.
Oh, and we're not on yet, right?
No,
we aren't. Quick thing about Airport Express and Airport Extreme, because I've just set up 2 of those. The Express and the Extreme are both routers, so they can both kind of directly connect to the DSL line. And but the Express has the added benefit of being an audio hookup kind of thing.
Got
so
it. Okay, so the chat room was certainly right about that.
Yeah.
That the Express is the thing he wants in the to plug into the amplifier.
I've just set one up today.
What do you know? Okay, well, tell you what. I'll start off. You can ask me your question. I'll answer it real quick. What is your budget, by the way?
I didn't even settle on that. So
okay,
just tell me anything.
Here we go. Hey, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, and I'm not involved in this music. This is Paul Simon, of course, singing about Kodachrome, which means it must be time for our photo guru, Chris Marquardt, to join us as he does every week at this time. Hey, Chris, welcome back.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, this is entirely my fault. I did this behind the scenes with Kyle Benham. It's my photographic MythBuster theme, so to speak.
It's perfect. It's perfect. I really appreciate that. That's great. Now, I know you've got a myth to bust, but before you do, you had a real quick home theater question for me.
Yeah, I'm tentatively looking for a very low feature kind of TV that pretty much what I'm looking for is a good panel, but just a bunch of HDMI inputs, 1, 2, 3, well, at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 inputs, so I can have several sources going through that. I'll handle the audio on my own. So it's just like a good panel with several switchable inputs. Do you have any recommendation right off the bat there?
Sure. I generally prefer plasma over LCD for one thing. So recommending plasmas, I really like Panasonic's probably best, and Samsung's next, and LG's last, only because there's only 3 plasma makers left in the world. But I would definitely get a Panasonic if you could. Are you interested in 3D?
Not at this point, but why not? I mean,
it's going to come along. It's going to come along as a feature anyway, with anything from a midline model upwards. So, you might as well, as you say. You're in Europe, though, right? So you're going to get a European model rather than an American model. And the primary difference is that in Europe, TV is broadcast at 50 frames per second, whereas here in the States, it's 60 frames per second. So, but that doesn't matter. You'll just get one over there from a store or an outlet there, and it'll be what you need. I would say a Panasonic Plasma is always my first choice for flat panel.
Okay.
And, if you were going to go with an LCD, an LED, illuminated LCD, the choices become more numerous, and the ones I would recommend become more expensive. Plasmas are generally less expensive than the best.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah, they are, exactly. So that's what I'm going to tell you.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
Now, what have you for us?
Well, there's this myth that keeps circling around, and a while ago I asked people how should someone change their lens. People kept telling me, and I heard this over and over, that you can avoid getting dust on the sensor of your camera, which is a problem with DSLRs. You open the camera, dust gets in.
Yep. And
the myth is you can avoid getting dust in your sensor by changing the lenses with the camera's opening pointing downwards, right? So you hold the camera and the lens kind of is below the camera so that dust doesn't fall in.
Well, that kind of makes sense. If you think about it, dust is going to fall with gravity, right?
It's right. And in general, things tend to fall down, but dust and especially the size of particles of dust that get on the sensor of the camera are typically so small that they don't really fall, at least not at any serious speed. They kind of hover in the air. So you know how it sometimes takes like an entire day for some dust to settle on a table or something?
Sure.
That's because that hovers in the air, and then overnight it comes down when no one is moving and no one's moving the air.
Of course, the air currents overcome gravity more often than not because the dust is so light.
They do. I mean, we're not talking rocks. We're talking really, really tiny microscopic dust. And now, okay, by never changing the lens, you will also not really be able to avoid getting dust on the sensor because those lenses that we use, especially the zoom lenses, they are not hermetically sealed. They are like air. Well, let me show you one. For those on the radio, I'm holding a big zoom lens here. So that is pretty much an air pump. You can see me if I extend this, what happens? Guess what happens to the inside of the lens? There's negative pressure inside that lens and inside the camera as well at this point. So
air gets sucked in.
It gets sucked in through the seals, and those seals are not dust tight. Definitely not for the size of particles we're talking about here. So dust will sooner or later get in the camera. That is something. And again, if you're on the beach, absolutely turn the camera around because sand
is heavy enough. Yeah,
are huge rocks compared to those little dust particles. But if we're talking dust inside your house, that's not an issue. But it will get in there. And now the question is, how bad is it? Because people will want to know that. Well, first of all, you have that filter in front of the sensor. The sensor itself doesn't get the dust on it. There's a kind of a package of glass in front of it with different filters. So the dust will sit on those filters. It will sit in front of the sensor, a bit of a distance away from the sensor. And so you will typically see the shadow of the dust. You won't see the dust itself. You will see the shadow, and under most light conditions, you will see them as kind of blurry, dark spots. So it's typically not very bad as long as it's not up in the sky. If you have those dark spots in the sky, you'll easily tell them. But if they are somewhere in the landscape or in some area of a picture where a lot's going on, they are usually not a big problem. And the cameras have, over the years, developed kind of a defense against the dust. What they have added in front of this package of glass in front of the sensor, there's this one additional thing. It's coated with fluoride. There's a fluoride coating on most of these sensors now. And that coating, this entire glass package gets shaken. There's this shaky thing, the piezo kind of shaker that shakes this glass. When you switch on the camera, you switch it off, and that will try to shake off the dust that is on the camera, on the sensor.
I was wondering about that because I have a Canon camera, and every time I turn it off, it says cleaning the sensor, and it has a little shaky icon on it. And I was read in the manual that it actually physically shakes the thing to try and shake the dust off. It physically
shakes it. You won't feel it because it's like supersonic. It's like a supersonic speaker. It's like a tiny little speaker that does a little beep sound, but that is enough to shake that filter package, and that shakes off some of that dust. And if you really have dust that doesn't come off, sometimes in spring you might get some pollen in there that is kind of sticky, and that doesn't really readily come off. That's the time when you either want to look into cleaning the sensor if you're too scared to do that yourself, to find a camera store, or sometimes even the camera manufacturer's service will do that.
So will that shaky thing, though, work effectively?
Yes.
At least if it isn't sticky pollen?
It is pretty good with regular dust. It is pretty good. I've seen quite a good reduction as soon as I switched to a camera that has that. And then some cameras even have a little sticky tape under the sensor, so when it shakes that dust off, it kind of gets caught in that sticky thing and doesn't come back onto the sensor.
Wow. Well, that sounds... I mean, you've busted a myth for me right here. Because I thought
it is a myth. You can't avoid getting dust in your camera. There are situations where it makes sense to hold the camera down with the hole pointing downwards. But in general, I'm really not concerned. What I'm usually concerned with is to make that time between the lenses as short as possible. So I take the lens off, put the other one right on. Sometimes I will use one of these little dust blowers, these rubber ball blowers, and blow a bit of air onto the lens before I put it on, so I don't have any dust clinging to the back of the lens, and put that in the camera.
I would also always put the cover, the lens cap, not only on the front of the lens but also on the back of the lens until it's time to put it on the camera.
Actually, yes, that's true. And the back of the lens is more important than the front of the lens when it comes to dust. Sometimes you even get some out of focus issues if you have too much dust on the back of your lens. So definitely put that cover on.
Mm-hmm. And then just take it off, stick it on the camera as soon as you can, and then stick it on the lens you're not using. Very good. But don't panic changing lenses. It's not worth doing that. I must admit, I get a little paranoid about it. I use a zoom lens myself, and I tend to just keep that on there. Well, listen, thank you so much, Chris Marquardt, for being with us today. I sure do appreciate it. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, back after this.
Clear. Good work, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Hey, awesome. I forgot to plug your website. I'm sorry.
Oh, feel free to do it later if you want to.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Thank you. It was so nice to see you in the chat room, too. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the show. I'll be taking off. Probably going to go to bed soon.
Oh, yeah. What time is it there now?
Almost 10.
Almost 10. Well, then you deserve to go to sleep.
Will do.
Take care. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
I use ESET's Nod 32. It has the most advanced heuristics.
Okay.
It detects the bad guys before they can get to you.
Excellent tip from the top floor. Chris Marquardt, discoverthetopfloor.com is the best one. Tips from the top floor no longer there, or just not as good a URL to use, Chris?
Email your printer. Every printer with Epson Connect has its own unique email address. All you do is you send it an email with the
choose one. Do they take you to the same place?
And the documents print. You can even customize the email address to make it even easier to remember. Or download the Epson
I'm sorry, iPhone 4657. You got dropped somehow? I really do apologize for that. We are having trouble with our phone system today. Sorry.
Connect-enabled printers also support Apple AirPrint and Google Cloud Print, giving you more options than ever. And the best part, Epson Connect works with all new Epson
slightly different purposes for the site.
Of Epson's new printers.
But he's everywhere.
The way you print with Epson Connect.
Midnight Rider's asking if I have anything on Blu-ray with DTS Master Audio or True HD, Dolby True HD, or PCM. Absolutely. Most Blu-rays have at least one of those, and usually more than one. So that's true of just about all of them. Discover the Top Floor. I'll use that one. Thank you, Sybil. I appreciate that tremendously. Oh, any of my performances on Blu-ray, Midnight Rider. Sorry. No, I do not, actually. Most of my recordings are audio only. But you know, something to think about. I thank you, Irish Patty. I am having such a grand old time here. I am answering chat on tomorrow's HT show. Yes, I am. Absolutely. Always. iPhone 657. Rusty Bones CDs. My wife has a CD. It hasn't been available in a while. We have some copies left, but it's probably a good idea to put them up on CD Baby or something like that. We're actually going to start digitizing her past albums, which are mostly on cassette, and some of them, one at least on LP. But we do want to digitize them, and we're going to make them available online. M. Lewis 106. I will be in Petaluma tomorrow. I'll be doing the show right from here.
Okay, Scott. We have a live read this segment, so just keep it in mind. Okay, turn your mic on.
We are but play. Think on this when you smoke tobacco.
It's something you better think about if you smoke tobacco. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That is a 17th century song called Tobacco, obviously, sung by my wife, Joanna Kasdan, with me playing the recorder there. And as I said at the beginning of the show, we're playing mostly music that I've been involved in as bumper music. And we hope you enjoy it. Let's go right back to the phones now. Let's see. Who's been waiting around? I apologize if you've been waiting around a long time. I am trying to get to as many as
Richard,
I
line one.
can. Richard on line one. Let's start with you, shall we? Let me just put you up here. Richard from... Oh. He got it, and then it went...
Yep.
Are you there, Richard?
I'm here.
Okay, fantastic. Scott Wilkinson here. How can I help you?
Hey, good afternoon, Scott. I think you're doing a great job.
Oh.
I listened to you the last 2 days, and I've been waiting to talk to you for endless amount of weeks and days with a little problem that I'm sure you can probably assist me with.
Well, I'd be sure happy to try. What's going on?
Well, here's what's up. First of all, I've got an AV receiver. It's an Onkyo model TXNR 906.
Excellent.
So it's probably about maybe 4 to 5 years old at the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 906 Onkyo. And what my problem is receiver works fine. However, what I've noticed is it's got 4 HDMI inputs,
mm-hmm.
and the number one input is about 6 dB lower than the other 3. So what I've been trying to find out is, are these fixed inputs, or can can the levels be changed on these inputs? And I can't understand why that HDMI 1 would be a little bit. It's about 3 to 6 dB lower. It's got to be 6 dB lower.
Well, 3 dB.
No matter what source I put. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say 3 dB. You might notice or you might not, but 6 dB you certainly would.
Yeah, you can definitely notice this.
Let me see.
And I thought, the only thing is, like, first of all, I'm visually impaired. But what I can remember is if you go to the input-output reassignment menu, there's nothing there for adjusting your input source devices.
Well,
only for speaker out, obviously.
Right. The input assign.
Is that typical of Onkyo to do that?
No, I've never heard of that before. I'm going to look it up here and see if I can find the answer. Let me look for you said the 906 is it's kind of an older model. TX.
It's about 5 years old now.
NR 906.
My buddy just bought a Denon 4311.
Oh, that's a great receiver. Of course, Onkyos are too. There's nothing wrong with Onkyo receivers.
He kind of.
Oh, you know what?
I kind of adopted this one.
Yeah, I understand. Unfortunately, on the Onkyo website, there's no owner's manual available, which is what I normally do for questions like this. The web has done such a wonderful thing, which is to make owner's manuals available online as PDFs for products going back generations. Product generations, not human generations. But in any event, normally I'm able to find the product manuals, the owner's manuals for a product such as this, and I would be able to look it up and tell you for sure. But unfortunately, it's not there, so I'm going to have to wing it. And I would say if you go into the input selection or input assignment menu, it may very well not be there. There's probably also an audio settings menu. I don't know exactly.
There is an audio adjust menu.
And that may have an input level control for each of the inputs. It's possible.
I don't believe it did. I think it just said whether you wanted like your Dolby Digital auto or if you wanted it selected for a certain input to be auto. Or
right, and whether your speakers are small or large, that kind of thing.
That was in
the speakers menu. Okay. Well, what do you have connected to input 1 as opposed to the other inputs?
Well, you know what? I've got the 4 sources that I've got is an Apple TV, a Roku player, a Sony Blu-ray player, and a DirecTV DVR. So.
And which one is connected to the HDMI input 1?
At this point, at the time right now, I've got the Apple TV plugged into that. Now, that's another question. Can I change the output of the device to bring the level up? In other words, does Apple TV, can I change the output level on that audio from the HDMI out? Or one of these other sources like the Roku player, the Roku player.
Roku, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly should be able to change the output level of the Apple TV if that's what's connected to HDMI input 1.
Well, I've tried all 4 different sources in that one input, and every source that I plug into it, they're all lower.
They're all lower.
And you have to keep raising the volume slightly to listen to that source when you go to that input, and it's loud enough, obviously, but it's just not. To me, it's not. I'm real stickler when it comes to things being done properly, and I don't know. It'd be nice to have all those inputs at the same level.
I agree with you.
Go from one source to another.
Sure.
The volume,
without having to change the volume every time you change a source.
Yeah, I don't think there's any audio compressing being done, so that's otherwise that would work too. But the other question I wanted to ask you about.
Yes, go ahead.
You might or may not know. Do they make such a device that someone who's visually impaired could plug into, say, like an HDMI output and get it, in other words, read an on-screen program menu. Wonder if they make anything like that.
I'm not sure I quite understand.
So it's something that you could let's put it this way. Something that you could plug into, like your monitor out, your HDMI output, and anything that comes on your TV or anything that stereo or TV is putting out would be turned into speech, so to speak. In other words.
Well, Jammer B here in the TWiT Brickhouse is talking about a screen reader for TV. We don't know if that exists, but they certainly do exist for computers.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm very familiar with them. I use them every day.
Sure.
I'm a Mac fan. I'm an iMac, iPad. I'm an Apple fan all the way.
Sure. And they do great work with assistive technology. They do a really good job, I think Apple does.
Oh, absolutely. I just wondered, do they make something like that for a set-top? For like a set-top box unit that you could plug into your output of your TV that would be a screen reader, or an output of a stereo that you could use as a screen reader?
Not that I know. Not that I know of.
Never heard of anything.
I never have. The one place I'd go to look possibly is a website called dancingdots.com. Now, they specialize in assistive technologies for sight-impaired people with regard to music. But have you heard of that one yet?
No. What's the name of the site?
Dancing Dots. dancingdots.com. And
that's interesting.
That's Dancing Dots, accessible music technology for blind and low vision performers, where music meets technology for the blind. So it has more to do with music. It may not be appropriate to you, but it's a site that I have worked with musicians, and they're very, very good. And I bet you if you contacted them, even if they don't have anything on their site about this particularly, they'll know if such a thing exists.
20 seconds.
That's a good place to start anyway.
Good place to start anyway.
Normally, are these inputs fixed, or are they adjustable?
Usually they're fixed, as far as I know. I'm going to do some more research. Somebody in the chat room gave me a link to the Onkyo TX-NR906 receiver manual, and I just tried to download it, but it's a little bit convoluted. So let me see if I can work on that, and keep listening. Scott Wilkinson here, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
Well, hey, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, filling in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy, for hour number 3 on the last day of my filling in. Leo will be back next week at his regularly scheduled time, and I will be back at my regularly scheduled time, which in live terms is Saturday at 11:33 a.m., right after the bottom of the hour news. I've had a wonderful time filling in for Leo. I got one more hour to go to talk to all of you fine folks about my favorite subject, which is home theater. Now, of course, in addition to home theater, I like talking about theatrical releases as well. We talked in the first hour about The Hobbit and high frame rates and Dolby Atmos and all the very cool stuff that's going to represent. And, of course, we all know that Disney recently purchased Lucasfilm for the bargain basement price of $4.05 billion. And I'm talking $1 billion here. So George made out real well on that, I'd say. And he's planning to retire, of course. And yet he's going to still apparently remain on as a creative consultant. So, and what's really cool about it is that Disney now has announced plans to make Star Wars 7, 8, and 9. Do you remember back when Star Wars, the original, came out, and Lucas was saying, I intend this to be 9 movies. I'm going to make episodes 4, 5, and 6 first, then 1, 2, and 3, then 7, 8, and 9. Well, later on in the process, in the ensuing, 10, 15 years, whatever it was, George Lucas ended up saying, you know what, I've gotten kind of tired of this. I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. And I was disappointed, even though, of course, 4, 5, and 6 were great. I enjoyed them tremendously. 1, 2, and 3 were not so great. I didn't particularly enjoy them. I thought they were not very good. And so maybe I was okay with not making 7, 8, and 9. But still, it's Star Wars. Well, Disney now apparently is going to make 7, 8, and 9, and they're going to be in 3D. Now, I know there are plenty of 3D haters out there, and that's okay. You can hate 3D all you like. I happen to like it, and it's at least when it's done well. And what I've seen of Disney so far, they do it well. They know how to do it. So I'm looking forward to 7, 8, and 9. I read an article about this whole sale, and George Lucas said with this sale, he expected Star Wars could easily exist as a franchise for 100 years. 100 years? Think about what was going on 100 years ago. We didn't have TV. We barely had movies. So what's going to be 100 years from now, do you think? Holodecks, like as in Star Trek? I wouldn't be surprised. And will we still have Star Wars under those conditions? Will we even have TV? It's awfully fun to speculate, but one never knows. But Lucas's original intention of having 9 episodes of Star Wars will now finally be realized. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Disney does with it. So home theater in its infancy, indeed. So the chat room is here, and I'm sure happy to have them along. Over 600 people in there. I invite you to join them. It's a wonderful place to kibitz and make comments from the peanut gallery. I am watching the chat room. It's at irc.twit.tv. And, of course, everything we talked about yesterday and everything we talk about today is going to be posted up at techguylabs.com. James DeRuvo is writing down everything we say, everything I say, everything he hears, and it will end up being in the show notes at techguylabs.com, the newly renovated website, which is really cool, actually, because you can look up individual questions, you can find responses. Even better, you can chime in with additions to the answers that I or Leo give to call-in questions. Because, of course, we don't know everything, and that's why Leo certainly calls the chat room his brain. And they are acting on that behalf for me as well today, which I'm very happy about. And so I'm very happy to invite you all to be in the chat room and to check out techguylabs.com. Let's go to Mike in Maine. Mike, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much, Scott. You have been so much help to me. A couple of months ago, you recommended, just like you did yesterday, a Yamaha YAS 101 soundbar. Mm-hmm. So I got one, and it's wonderful.
Great.
And while it doesn't have a separate subwoofer like you were talking about yesterday, it does have a built-in subwoofer that I find does very, very well.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. I do like the sound of that soundbar. It doesn't quite get quite as low as a real subwoofer does, but, for a very tightly constrained space, it works great. And it does a fairly credible job of simulating surround, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And if you're just watching TV as opposed to, going through Blu-ray DVDs or Blu-rays and things like that, it's perfectly adequate. It does a great job.
Certainly better than the TV's internal sound.
Oh, definitely better than that. One of the reasons you recommended it was because it had an IR pass-through on it.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, is not compatible with my Sony television.
What?
So, yeah, it was surprising and disappointing, and so Leo recommended that I get an IR extender from Monoprice, and I did.
Uh-huh.
And it seems to work, but it works exactly the opposite of what I had expected.
How do you mean?
When I have the room dark, as I usually, watch my TV in, especially in the evenings, because it's in the bedroom.
Sure.
And I have the room dark, it doesn't pick up. The IR extender doesn't work. It will not control the television at all. When I have the room incredibly brilliantly lit and I have the halogen torchère lamp on and the other lights on, no problem, piece of cake. And
1 minute.
If you have any idea why it works that way.
Oh, that's weird. I don't, because IR usually works great in a dark room. And in fact,
that's what I would have thought.
Yeah, in a bright room, there might be, other infrared radiation is essentially what it is in the environment, and it might mess up the IR. So I'm really quite surprised that it doesn't work. How do you have it all hooked up?
Well, I'm only using the IR on the television, and the IR receiver is directly under the sound bar, and is a direct line of sight from the remote into the IR receiver. It's not a problem at all, but unless there's a lot of light behind it, because I'm sitting in the bed, it's about 10 feet ahead of me, and unless I have the the torch light on behind me, and a lot of light behind me in front of the IR, it doesn't seem to pick up and control the TV.
Wow!
And that's with the lights off. When I turn the lights on, hit the button, no problem.
Boy, you've got me stumped. Let's see if the chat room has anything to say after the break. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, filling in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
Thank you, caffeine-free Dave. He was counting me down 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 3, 2, 1.
I got kicked out of the chat room for doing that once.
Friends,
really?
Have a little me time too.
For I think like the automatic spam trigger went off and booted me.
Oh, how weird!
When Leo and I lost connection one time, I was like 10, 9, 8, 7. I'm typing it in the computer, and then boom, you've been kicked out of chat. Thanks, Dan.
Oh man!
Continually.
White noise. How did Leo's TV calibration go? Went quite well. I did run into some problems, not with the TV, but with the interaction of the PS3, which I'm going to be talking about extensively tomorrow on Home Theater Geeks. Titus has perhaps that IR problem has something to do with the Higgs field interacting with the IR. Yeah, maybe so. It gave the IR photons mass. There you go. Let's see. Ask Me Help Desk. Tech Dude has a link here. Let's see what that is. Remote trouble. My remote stopped working in the dark. I have DirecTV. Sent me a new receiver. Opened the new box. Set it up just fine. While the new remote's same as my old one, I used the old remote because it was handy. While still using it, stopped working in the dark. Oh, that's great. It could be that the LCD or plasma TV is interfering with remote operation. Wow, that's very interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense, actually. He has an IR repeater. It says you can fix this problem with an IR repeater. It's Scott Wilkinson here, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. A little more Renaissance music for you here. This is a dance known as an allemande. We played it often at the Renaissance Pleasure Fair here in California with the Southern California Early Music Consort. So while we were on the break, Caffeine-Free Dave, I believe, in the chat room, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, Tech Dude came up with a possible explanation for the problem that the last caller was having, which stumped me, which was he was using his IR remote to control his TV through a Yamaha soundbar that has an IR repeater on the back, and it worked fine when lots of lights were on, but not in the dark. And that really just stymied me until the fellow in the chat room, who I already lost, Tech Dude, pointed me to a website that had a question and an answer about the same thing, which was the answer possibly was that if he's using plasma or LED TV or LCD TV, that might be emitting some infrared radiation, infrared light, which might be interfering with the remote signals as they're trying to be transmitted to the receiver at the other side of the room. But when the lights are on, maybe that obviates the radiation coming from the TV, allowing the remote to work, because that was the situation. So that might be the answer, in which case there's not much that can be done. Oh, except there was a very interesting solution on this website, which was askmehelpdesk.com. And the solution was aim the remote through a paper towel tube. So that's pretty cool. You know, I mean, it's a little bit clunky. So you get one of these paper towel tubes. You've used up the paper towels, and you put the remote at one end, and you aim it at the IR receiver at the other end of the room. That might help focus the IR signal to be stronger when it gets to the IR receiver at the other end of the room. So I hope you're still listening, because that might possibly be a possible solution. Okay, let us go to Paul in Sacramento, if I can hit the button correctly. There he is, Paul in Sacramento. You're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. How can I help you?
Hello, Scott. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
And to you.
I bought a Vizio 55-inch E-Series, which I know is the bottom of their line.
Sure. But pretty good for what it is.
For it. Oh, great picture. I mean, fabulous. However, I've had it for about 8 months. For about the last 2.5 months, if it's on for a couple of hours, the voice and the video get out of sync. If I turn the TV off, reboot it, it comes back into sync for a while, and then it goes back out of sync.
Wow. Well, that clearly sounds like a heat issue. I mean, if it's been on for a while, it gets hotter, and that could affect things. But I'm really surprised that would be the case. Now, you're using the TV's own internal sound system, right?
Yes.
Any way you can experiment with using an external sound system, a sound bar or an AV receiver?
I was going to buy a sound bar anyway. I was going to buy the Vizio sound bar that you recommended with the subwoofer.
Yeah. I'd be very interested to see if that solved the problem.
It's still under warranty, so I was just thinking, is this a problem with my satellite receiver, or is it really a problem with the television itself?
Well, did you notice this on the TV that you had before? Did you have another TV with the same satellite receiver?
I had a Sony rear projection for years and didn't have any problem at all.
Okay, so that sounds like it's the Vizio, not the satellite receiver.
Right.
I don't know if the Vizio TV, have you looked in the menu to see if it has a lip sync control in the menu?
It says in the directions that, or it said on the website that many of their models had lip sync. I checked my menu and mine doesn't have it.
Doesn't have it. Well, it's an entry-level TV. You know, I would say since you have it, it's still under warranty. I would probably take that approach first, because that sounds like a fault to me.
Okay.
It sounds like something's wrong.
I thought it was probably a problem with TV. I just wanted your opinion on it.
Yep. That's what I'd say.
All right, very good. I'll go ahead and get a hold of Vizio and get a authorization to take it to a warranty station then.
There you go. Good luck. Okay, let's go to Dave in Corona. Dave, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hi, Scott. I have a question about TV. I don't have cable. I just have a antenna up in my attic.
Okay.
And I can get CBS, NBC, Channel 11, PBS, all that, but I can't get ABC. Do you have any idea why?
Where are you located? Oh, Corona.
In Corona.
Do you know whether you're getting the stations, the LA stations? Probably you are, from Mount Wilson.
Yes, I am. I'm getting. Yes, I know I'm getting the LA station.
Well, one thing that I have.
Fox 11.
Right. One thing that I have found. I have an antenna on my roof, and the antenna is mounted in a rotor. Okay, so I have a little control in my home theater, and it allows me to rotate the antenna because it needs to be pointed in the right direction. It's not an omnidirectional antenna. So I would suggest that you play around with. You probably don't have this antenna on a motorized rotor, so it might mean you have to crawl up into the roof and into the attic and start aiming the antenna in slightly different directions, and maybe have somebody else down in your TV room and say, okay, is that any better? Can you get ABC? Tune to ABC, right. And see if rotating the antenna around helps. I have found certainly that when the antenna isn't pointed in the right direction, I do get some stations, but not others.
Right.
So I would guess that.
3 of them.
Sorry?
Excuse me.
1 minute.
Say all 3 of them are coming from the same general area. In LA,
it's true.
On the mountain there.
Yeah, it's true. They are all coming from the same general area, but that would be the first thing I would try, certainly, because I have found it to be true. And I live in the San Fernando Valley, and Mount Wilson is more or less in the same direction, and yet a slight change in the directionality of that antenna has made a difference.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a try.
Give it a shot. Good luck on that. I hope that works. You know what? I forgot to give out the phone number, and we do have plenty of calls here, but just in case you might want to try, you can give me a call at 8888-ASK-LEO. And, of course, it's me, Scott, today, but you still have to use 8888-ASK-LEO, which is 888-827-5536. Okay, and here we come to another break. We'll be back right after this. I am Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
Midnight Rider, I do know the Leaf. Were you asking me about the Leaf earlier? Ooh, I didn't have that volume up high enough. Sorry, Kyle.
Oh, no, you're fine. Everything was fine.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you, I can play the song that we originally had right here if you want it.
I'd actually rather have Minor Booze if you can.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do that going into the break live, but I have 4 minutes right now if you want me to hit this minute 30.
Oh, sure, why not?
Or no, it's not a minute 33, it's actually 4 minutes, but I'll hit it. Here, I'll get it.
Okay, so for all of you in the chat room, here is a song by my wife, Joanna Kasdan, about the Tiananmen Square incident.
What courage those citizens crowding to challenge their leaders. When the massacre started, we felt it as if we were there.
A little too much gain, Kyle. Can you turn it down a bit?
Oh, the airwaves were full of that grand
that's high on your end.
Democracy.
Is that okay?
While the credits roll.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay. Yeah, that's strange. Like, now it's low on my end. But, okay, cool.
Was it crazy naive to think the times really were changing? Living through history, hard to see clearly at all. But look at their shining eyes. See how their spirits rise. Look at their hope for a world took me on civil rights marches. And on Paul Revere Day, wore my tri-corner hat with pride. 'Cause it all fit together, the long sacrifices for freedom.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to have to get ready for
That's
this
fine.
segment
No
here.
problem.
First minute man.
That was just a little taste of my wife's album, Living Through History, which is a politically themed album. And yeah, baby. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And that music is from the Cabrillo College Alumni Big Band, which I was fortunate enough to play in 35 some years ago. And in fact, last year we had a reunion concert from which that was. That tune was called A Little Minor Booze and featured the trombone section, which is why I chose it, since that was the section in which I was playing. Anyway, let's see. I got a couple of interesting calls here. I'm going to go with Tim in... Let me see. Where I got to get the button here first. It is Tim in Truckin'. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're actually on the road?
Yeah, I'm on the road, and I'm in Alabama today.
Fantastic. And you got an answer to the antenna question that we had in the last call.
Yeah, because I'm a truck driver, and I watch TV in my truck sometimes in the evening when I'm not driving, and I have a lot of experience with picking up TV with an antenna. And he probably needs a VHF antenna because if I remember right, in Los Angeles, there's about 3 stations that have transmit on VHF and the rest on UHF.
On UHF. You know, I do know that, and I totally forgot. Thank you so much for reminding me.
And sometimes you can get away with using a UHF antenna and still get the VHF if you're close enough.
Right, but he's in Corona, and he's not that close to Mount Wilson. So I think you're really onto something here. So he might need to get a VHF antenna.
Actually, yeah, it would be a bigger antenna because a UHF antenna
is pretty
has
small.
The element's about a foot long,
right?
About 12 inches wide.
Yep.
And a VHF is going to be a bigger one for the VHF high band, which is channel 7 to 13. It's going to be about 30 inches wide.
Sure, because UHF is higher frequency, ultra high frequency, and so the wavelength of that electromagnetic radiation is shorter than it is for VHF, which is lower frequency and therefore longer wavelength. So you may very well be right that he needs a VHF antenna for ABC. I don't remember whether ABC broadcasts in VHF or UHF, but you are right. Most high-def stations over the air are UHF, but there are a few that are VHF. So thank you so much for calling in from the road, somewhere from the road in Alabama.
Yep.
I sure appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, Kareem in Temecula has a possible solution for the Vizio TV. Hey, Kareem, thanks for calling.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Great. I'm a network guy, but I was just listening to your show. It's a great show, and
thanks.
When I heard the guy was talking about the Vizio, I mean, he can do some troubleshooting, but it's just probably playing a DVD, to actually just isolate to see if it's actually a satellite or a TV. So if you play the DVD, the TV is going to be on. The sound should be good. But if it happens, the sync between the DVD, between the sound and the image stays like that for like a couple of DVDs.
Right.
I will say that it's a satellite.
Oh,
if it happens in the DVD.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That we're talking about a lip sync issue. I troubleshot it at the point of saying, did it happen with your older TV that was connected to the same satellite receiver? And he said no, it didn't. So that made me think it wasn't the satellite receiver. But I think your idea your idea is also excellent. Is to play some DVDs or Blu-rays and see if it happens in that case. If it does, then it's the TV. If it doesn't, then that might point more to the satellite receiver. That's another excellent point.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great show. I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to zoom through as many calls as I can here. Let's go to Jay in Providence, North Carolina. Jay, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hey, Scott. I'm trying to help someone out who's come into possession of some large film studios, and the whole experience has been rather bizarre for us. As you're probably aware, the ceilings on these things are 40 feet, maybe more, thereabout.
Sure.
And from what we've just different consultations and things we've tried to make so far, there's a tremendous echo in relation to with respect to what they are. That is, they're just so large, and we're wondering where can we turn to get the acoustics where someone actually wanting to make a film could do so.
Well, for one thing, very often if you're on a stage like that, you might very well re-record the audio anyway. So that the acoustics of the stage wouldn't really matter. But if you wanted to make a movie and use what's called the production audio, that is the audio that you record on the set while you're filming, then yeah, you do need some acoustic treatment. And a situation like that is going to call for a pro. And the pros that I know are here in L.A. You're in North Carolina, so you might be able to get a referral. But the company, as I recall, is called PMI. I'm gonna look them up here real quick and see if I can tell you where they are. It's not mortgage insurance. Acoustics. Here we are. PMILTD.com. PMI Limited. They do home theater acoustic research and professional studio acoustic research. It's run by a guy named Anthony Grimani, who's been on my podcast, Home Theater Geeks, and he is a whiz. I mean, he is super expert at acoustics, at room acoustics particularly. So I would definitely go to PMILTD.com and maybe be in touch with them. If they can't help you directly, because they're here in California, they certainly would know people in North Carolina who might be able to help you. But I know they travel all over the country, so depending on your budget, of course, that would be the way I would go. I would consult with them because they are top-notch. They know exactly what they're doing. They'd be able to make that room sound fantastic.
Great.
So that's what I would do with that.
Sounds good. I do appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much for calling. Okay, we got a minute left. Let's see what we can do here with Dennis near Knoxville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Hi, Scott. How you doing? I'm enjoying your weekend.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm enjoying my weekend, too.
Oh, yeah. And I just happened to think of something I could ask you about. I have a Vizio, a 47-inch. It's about 2 years old. It's an E-Series.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the only 47-inch they ever made. And it's an excellent TV. And the problem I'm having is the HDMI, number one, went out after a year. And it just has no signal, no matter what you hook up to it. So I switched everything over to number two. And number two just went out, I would say, about 2 months ago.
Ooh.
And now I'm on the third one, which is the one that's on the side.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, are those repairable?
Boy, let's talk about that as soon as we get back from this break. I'm Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
By the way, chat room, I do want to let you know that anybody living in L.A., I would like to plug a concert that I am in charge of next month, December 16th, 7 p.m. It's called Tuba Christmas. If you can imagine, 150 to 200 tubas playing Christmas music, and some Hanukkah music, too. So I do want to invite all of you. It's a free concert. All you have to do is go to tubachristmasla.com. Exactly as it sounds, tubachristmasla.com. And there you will see all the information about where and when it is. Sunday, December 16th. And I do encourage you to see that website and come hear me conduct 200 tubas. Plus, we're going to have some pros doing some special stuff there. Really, really good pros. I mean, like the tuba player from the L.A. Philharmonic and people of that caliber. So I encourage you to come check it out. There are that many tubas in L.A. There's a Tuba Christmas at downtown Disney that's probably going to have 500 tubas. Look at that. Uncle Bick, too, took a bit to look it up. ABCLA is a VHF channel. What do you know? Yep, tubachristmasla.com. And, boy, you haven't lived till you've heard 200 tubas play Jingle Bells. Gotta tell you. I just gotta tell you. Yeah, Rusty Bones. That's what I was going to say. I was going to advise this caller, Dennis, to call Vizio, because that's... Unfortunately, he's probably out of warranty. That's a bummer. UOSDWIS. USDWIS. Saxophone. That's, yes, I do direct. Solve the VHF antenna problem within the attic, Sybil. With a rotor in the attic. Just use a braid fishing line, suspend the antenna from the rafters using a fishing swivel. Wow, that's cool. You can rotate it with a stepladder when it needs fine-tuning. Wow, great. Midnight Rider, do I know if I can get OTA in the Antelope Valley? I don't know. And Kevin Dublin, yes, there are a couple of pictures of me on the Tuba Christmas LA site. I put that site together with Squarespace, by the way, a fine sponsor of the TWiT network, and an excellent site hosting service.
All right, Scott, last segment here.
There we go.
Just give me that live read and we'll be good to go. All right, mic on in 3, 2, 1.
It's Scott Wilkinson here, the home theater geek, for the last segment of the day and of the weekend. This song is called Threads of Friendship, written by my wife, Joanna Kasdan, and I picked it for my last bumper to express to you how wonderful I feel sitting here, being connected by the threads of friendship to so many wonderful people out there in Radioland and in the chat room. I'm so sad to be nearly at the end of a wonderful weekend of talking all about home theater with all of you. Let me first quickly finish up with Dennis near Knoxville. Dennis, you still with us?
Yes.
You know, it sounds, the problem you were having was the HDMI 1 input failed, and you moved everything to HDMI 2. That failed, you moved everything to HDMI 3. You don't have another one to go to. It sounds like a failure mode to me. I would definitely call Vizio on this. I don't think there's any.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
I was wondering if, I was just wondering if it's salvageable. It's an excellent TV. I mean, everything is fantastic on it.
Yeah.
But, now we're down to the point, like, you want to run DVD, you got to pull that plug out, plug that one in, and I just wondered.
Call Vizio. Call Vizio. It's really the only thing I can suggest. It definitely sounds like a failure mode, if you ask me. Okay, thanks. You know what? We have one more message from Leo Laporte. He has sent us greetings and felicitations and thrown another shrimp on the Barbie while he says these sacred words.
You know it. I know it. Practically everybody.
Clear. You can eat that shrimp on the Barbie now.
Most people don't do it often enough. That's why you need carbon.
Sorry about that. I threw him on a hold just thinking you're done with it and wanting to move on at that point.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Just set it up once.
Can you see that when I'm putting them on hold on your end?
I can.
Okay,
I can.
Perfect.
Need access to a file? That's easy. You can access your backup files on any computer or your smartphone or iPad with a free Carbonite app. I use Carbonite because Carbonite is the better backup plan. Unlimited backup space for your PC or Mac, just $59 a year. And if you run a small business, Carbonite also has plans that will back up all your computers, servers, and external hard drives for a low.
All right, Scott, when you come back, you're going to have 7 minutes. That's all you.
No credit card required. Use my name, Leo. You'll get 2 free bonus months if you decide to buy.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds. I'm putting your mic on.
It's the better backup plan. Use my name, Leo, to get 2 bonus months with purchase.
Thanks so much, Leo, and thank you also for allowing me this opportunity to fill in for you while you're off on your Australian adventure. And with the last few minutes we've got, I'm going to get in a couple more calls. In particular, Mark in Pasadena. Mark, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the Home Theater Geek. Welcome.
Hi, Scott. I have a question. Can you tell me how a 4K projector works?
Sure. 4K is a term that is used to describe the resolution of the image that the projector produces. The normal high-definition image is what's often called 2K, somewhat mistakenly, but it's roughly 2,000 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels tall. To be specific, it's 1,920 pixels across by 1080 tall. 4K, by contrast, is 4,096 pixels across by 2,160 pixels down. Do I got that right? 41. Well, in any event, it's about 4,000 across and 2,000 down. Let's just say that. So 4,000 across is 4K. So it's 4 times the resolution of HD TV. Now, there are some projectors that are starting to come out that have that resolution. The big problem is that there isn't any content at that resolution. So what those projectors have to do is upconvert or upscale high-def content to that 4K resolution. And will there be 4K content in the future? Probably so. But the studios have such a hard time releasing high def and protecting it with copy protection and so on, that I believe they're going to be loath to release their content again in 4K. And even if they did, how would it get delivered to the home? Blu-ray can't, in its current incarnation, carry that high resolution. It could if it were revamped or modified, but that'll take years. Streaming 4K, even with very high compression rates, is going to take massive amounts of bandwidth. So how is it going to get delivered to the home? This is a question that has yet to be answered, and it's going to be a while. So for now, 4K projectors are going to be stuck playing Blu-ray content, 1080p content, upscaling it to 4K. So it's not that valuable, in my opinion, at this point. It's beautiful. When you see real 4K content on a 4K display, your jaw drops and you go, wow, that's amazing. But how soon will it be? I mean, it's not even in theaters very much. It will be presumably with The Hobbit, because that was recorded at 4K, and hopefully they will play it at 4K. A lot of theaters with digital projectors have 4K capability, but the studios still deliver 2K to them to play on these 4K projectors. So the value of 4K is somewhat questionable, in my opinion. Did that answer your question?
That does answer the question thoroughly. Thank you.
Great.
Does the projector project the 4K image any differently than a
1080p projector?
No, it's exactly the same. There are projectors that are DLP technology, which are the little tiny micro mirrors on a chip. And there are also, Sony makes the SXRD 4K projector, which is a variation of LCOS, liquid crystal on silicon. So it's the same projection technology. There are simply more pixels, and each pixel is smaller so that you can blow up the picture bigger than you can a regular 1080p. And by the way, that's another confusing point. 1080p refers to the vertical resolution, whereas 4K refers to the horizontal resolution. So right away, the terminology is not apples to apples, as it were. So that is a big source of confusion, and I'm not surprised that you're confused. Many people are.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
So my pleasure. Thank you so much. You know what? I think, Kyle, how much time have I got left? Have I
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. May not be enough time to get another call, because I do want to take a moment to thank everybody who has helped me look and sound so good this weekend. Of course, our wonderful engineer, board op, musical director, and all-around great guy, Kyle Benham, who has been running the board at the mothership KFI in Los Angeles, doing a fantastic job. Even through some technical difficulties, he has found solutions to everything and played all of my music beautifully. I thank him so much for that. Gina Salvati is answering your calls as a call screener today, and she's been doing a fabulous job as well. Gina Yates was yesterday. Up here in Petaluma, Alex Gumpel was the engineer for yesterday's show, and John Slanina has been doing it today. And again, all of them have just done such a fabulous job at making me sound and look good and allowing me to have so much fun talking to all of you about home theater. Leo Laporte will be back next week at his regularly scheduled time, and I will be on my normal time at 11:30 a.m. Saturday Pacific time. Meanwhile, I do a podcast on Leo's TWiT network called Home Theater Geeks. What else would you expect? And the show tomorrow, it runs Mondays from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 to 6 Eastern time. And tomorrow will be a very special show. I will be broadcasting live from the TWiT Brick House here in Petaluma with my special guest, Robert Heron, another home theater geek, if ever there was one. And we're going to be talking, among other things, about Leo's TVs. See, while I've been up here this weekend, I have been calibrating Leo's TVs in his brand new house. And I've done the Panasonic GT50, which turned out very nicely. But I did have some problems with the PS3 gaming console that Leo uses as a Blu-ray player. It has a different output characteristic than the test pattern generator I use to do the calibration, primarily in terms of white and black. Now, we're going to get deeply into that tomorrow, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific. I do hope you will join me then. Until then, this is Scott Wilkinson, the Home Theater Geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Geek out.
Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the TWiT Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.